Imagine a world where dense forests whispered secrets, rivers carved paths through untamed lands, and hilltops were crowned with stone forts, bristling with life. A world where communities spoke in a language that survives today only in fragments, where ritual and art intertwined, and where warriors, yes, fierce warriors, roamed, but there was so much more to these people than just battles. This was the world of the Celts. For centuries, the Celts have captured our imagination. When most people think of them, visions of horned helmets, fearless warriors, and wild, untamed tribes come to mind. But what if I told you the real story of the Celts goes far beyond the myths? That their influence stretched across Europe, shaping art, culture, and even religion in ways that still echo today. The Celts weren't a single nation or empire. They were a collection of tribes, loosely connected by language, religion, and shared customs. From the rolling hills of Ireland to the forests of modern-day France, and as far as the edges of Turkey, Celtic culture flourished. And yet, curiously, the Celts left no central empire, no grand capital city. Their strength lay not in conquest alone, but in their adaptability, artistry, and deep spiritual connection to the world around them. One of the most fascinating aspects of Celtic life was their spirituality. The Druids, mysterious figures who served as priests, teachers, and judges, held immense influence. They weren't just religious leaders. They were philosophers, scientists, and advisors. Imagine a society where knowledge of the stars, of plants, and of the cycles of life and death was held in the hands of a select few, spoken of only in secret, away from the eyes of outsiders. What secrets did these Druids carry? How did their teachings influence the wider Celtic world? We may never know fully, but their legacy whispers through the stones, rivers, and myths left behind. And then there's their art, which is nothing short of mesmerizing. Celtic design's intricate spirals, complex knotwork, and stylized animals weren't mere decoration. They were symbols, expressions of a worldview where everything was connected. Life and death, man and nature, the seen and unseen. Each pattern told a story, a message woven into metal, stone, and wood. Even their jewelry wasn't just for beauty. It conveyed status, beliefs, and identity. Can you picture the craftsmanship, the hours of dedication to create objects that have survived thousands of years, still dazzling us today? When it comes to warfare, yes, the Celts were formidable. Roman accounts describe massive armies, fearless charges, and warriors painted blue with woad, striking terror into their enemies. But unlike the disciplined legions of Rome, Celtic warfare was as much about ritual as it was about strategy. Battles were dramatic, sometimes symbolic, and often served to honor the gods or prove bravery. It wasn't mindless violence, it was theater, a reflection of their values and their world. Yet the Celt story is not just one of power and artistry. It is also a story of mystery and disappearance. By the time the Roman Empire reached its peak, the Celtic world had already begun to transform. Tribes were assimilated, languages faded, and territories were conquered. The Celts, once spread across Europe like the wind through the forests, seemed to vanish in many regions. But their culture never truly died. The myths of Cuchulainn, the tales of Boudica, and the legends of King Arthur all carry whispers of Celtic influence. Every twisted knot in a medieval manuscript, every ceremonial artifact unearthed by archaeologists is a breadcrumb from a world that refuses to be forgotten. Consider the Helsted and Latine cultures, which predate written history. These archaeological treasures reveal a civilization of farmers, traders, and craftsmen with a sophisticated understanding of metallurgy and urban planning. The Celts were not just warriors, they were innovators. They established trade routes across Europe, interacted with Mediterranean civilizations, and influenced societies thousands of miles away. Can you imagine how a people with no central authority could spread ideas, art, and technology so far and wide? That's the brilliance of the Celtic network, decentralized yet powerful, fluid yet enduring. And let's not forget the women of Celtic society. Unlike many contemporaneous cultures, Celtic women could wield influence, own property, and even lead in battle. Legends and historical accounts describe queens and priestesses whose authority was recognized and respected. They weren't behind-the-scenes figures. They were central to the narrative of their people. This is a civilization that, in many ways, challenged the norms of its time, redefining power, courage, and societal roles. But perhaps the most enduring mystery of the Celts is why they are so often remembered as myths rather than history. Was it Roman bias that painted them as savages? Or is it because the Celts themselves rarely recorded their own history, preferring oral tradition and storytelling over written records? Every discovery, every excavation of a hill fort or burial mound is a puzzle piece in a vast mosaic we are still piecing together. And that mystery is precisely what makes their story so compelling. Now, I want to ask you, when you think of the Celts, what comes to mind? Is it the wild warriors, the enchanting myths, or the sophisticated art and culture? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how your vision of the Celts matches up with what we've explored today. So the next time you see a Celtic knot, or hear a story of ancient warriors charging across a misty hill, remember, the Celts were more than myths. They were innovators, artists, spiritual leaders, and storytellers. They were a civilization that embraced life in all its complexity, leaving behind echoes of beauty, bravery, and mystery that still captivate us. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden layers of Celtic history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. Share this journey with your friends. Let's keep the legacy of the Celts alive together. Because history, after all, isn't just about dates and battles. It's about stories that shape who we are. And the Celts have left us a story worth remembering.